Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick, back once again to take a look at some more X-Wing 2nd Edition spoilers. Now, we've gotten through all the pilots, but now we have a bunch of upgrade cards to talk about. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the unique Imperial characters. In the next one, we'll go through all the unique Scum characters, and then we'll take some time and have a chat about all the generic stuff as well. So still plenty to talk about. But in the meantime, yes, we do have everything spoiled for 2nd Edition so far, which means it's time that on this channel we can start talking about archetypes and builds and all that kind of stuff. Don't have the points just yet, but hopefully they'll be coming soon. Alright, before I dive into these, I will show you the image here, which is every single unique Imperial character in the game right now. Now in this video, I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. We have covered about half of these so far. We're just going to talk about the new ones that were revealed the other day in the Battle of Lost Souls unboxing video. But if you'd like to see some discussions on the rest of these, click the annotation up here and you can see the details from FFG's unboxing about a month ago. And let's begin with Agent Kallus. As I do these, the new version of the card will be on the left and the old 1st edition card will be on the right hand side. Agent Kallus, setup. Assign the hunted condition to one enemy ship. While you perform an attack against the ship with the hunted condition, you may change one of your eyeball results to a hit result. And hunted reads, after you are destroyed, you must choose another friendly ship and assign this condition to it if able. And that's interesting. It actually confused me a little bit, but the reason it's talking to you and talking to friendly ships is because that is actually being done by your opponent, not the person using Agent Kallus. And I really like the design of this. Now, first up, yep, Agent Kallus is using conditions. The old version would have if conditions existed back when Agent Kallus was originally designed. That came a few waves later. But what this is doing, it's less a symmetrical effect. It's not about being on offense and defense. It's about giving Agent Kallus's carrier a bit more offensive capability, and it also adds a bit of recursion to the effect by making it jump from ship to ship. Now, obviously, you will give the hunted condition at the start of the game to whatever ship you definitely want to kill, and from that point on, if you manage to kill that ship, your opponent gets to choose. Yeah, they may put it on their worst ship from that point on, but there still is value there nonetheless. And what I like most about this is the fact that it scales better against different kinds of lists. The old version of Agent Kallus worked really well when you have one very clear target that you want to take down, especially when flying things like Whisper. It's a great ace that you can sort of hone in on one of your opponent's ship. However, when we're flying swarms, that is not so good. Getting a boost against one of many TIE fighters doesn't really give Agent Kallus much value. Now, the good thing about the original Agent Kallus in the current meta in 1st edition is that doesn't really matter because swarms aren't flown so much. However, it's very clear that FFG are pushing swarms a lot in 2nd edition, and that's why I think they've given Agent Kallus this recursion effect. Against a smaller list that your opponent's flying, say maybe 2 ships, Agent Kallus is still going to have decent value, but if your opponent flies a swarm, it means that Agent Kallus can get this recursive effect and actually have an offensive boost against several different ships. And that's really, really cool. It means he's going to be viable against a whole heap of different lists, so he's not just blanked out in some situations. Alright, let's move on to Grand Moff Tarkin, and this is really giving us a strong indication of the design direction of the Empire in 2nd edition. Now, the old Grand Moff Tarkin was only for huge ships. The new one can go on any Imperial ship that has a target lock. He has 2 recursive charges. During the system phase, you may spend 2 charges. If you do, each friendly ship may acquire a lock on a ship that you have locked. And basically the way charges are used here is it's something that you get to choose which turns you can use it on, but it just means you can't use it 2 turns in a row. But right here we can see a clear design direction for the Empire. I get the impression that FFG liked overall the design of Palpatine in 1st edition, and they wanted more different ways of doing that kind of thing. So there's some really powerful Imperial crew that can give very significant buffs to the ships around it. And more to the point, just the other day we had the title for the Lambda class shuttle revealed, which does enable us to power out target locks, which gives a lot of efficiency to this ability. This just seems really, really cool. Now, there's no clarification yet with the 2nd edition rules whether any ship can acquire target locks. If this was written as it was in the 1st edition of the game, it would mean that any ship could acquire target locks. There's no clause that says you can't acquire target locks if you don't have the target lock action on your bar. For the sake of balance, FFG might do that in the new version, but I'm going to guess they're probably not, because there seems to be a real push specifically towards TIE swarms TIE Fighters don't have the target lock natively on their action bar, so this would be a really good card to fly along TIE Fighters, although there's also the argument that that might be a bit too powerful, and that's why I think there may be a rules change, but probably not. Just something to think about. But nevertheless, this is a very powerful effect. The old version is pretty naff, to be honest. I don't think shifting around a focus token is really worth 6 points, and it's good to see Grand Moff Tarkin making it into the standard game in a very relevant way. Okay, moving on to Moff Jerjerrod, and again we have a massive overhaul on the ability. He must be fielded on an Imperial ship with the Coordinate action, as 2 recursive charges. During the systems phase, you may spend 2 charges. Again, this is an effect that you can choose to do for an entire turn, but you cannot use it on sequential turns, just like Grand Moff Tarkin. If you do, choose the 1 bank left, straight, or 1 bank right template. Each friendly ship may perform a red boost using that template. Again, this seems just really, really good and very, very similar to Grand Moff Tarkin. Now, red boosts obviously are not ideal in every situation. Sometimes you need to dial in K turns or just white maneuvers, and you generally don't want to get your swarm stressed, but there's going to be plenty of situations, especially alongside TIE Fighters, where you don't mind stressing them out because there's a decent amount of green on their dial and they'll just clear it during their activation. Which means there's actually very little downside to this at all. And for that reason, yeah, this looks awesome. It'll be interesting to see how much Moff Jerjerrod costs. And Grand Moff Tarkin for that matter. I think both of these guys are very, very efficient and may even be the center of an archetype. Either of them or both of them together. I mean, who knows? But I just love the idea of being able to turn a swarm 45 degrees to face your opponent's ship, which just gives them way more positioning power. Just seems really, really effective. And again, a big indication of the design direction moving forward. Yeah, TIE swarms or swarms in general on the Empire with powerful support roles is going to be a thing moving forward. It might not be Palp, but there are certainly plenty of options to replace him now. Let's move on to Seventh Sister, one of the Inquisitors. Goes on any Imperial ship with a recursive force charge. If an enemy ship at range 0 to 1 would gain a stress token, you may spend 1 force. To have it gain 1 jam or track token instead, this effect doesn't really excite me too much. I mean, it's good to have different control elements, but at the same time, you're only replacing an existing control element. I mean, it's great having the choice, but I just don't feel like there's a lot of situations where a jam or tractor token is going to be significantly better than a stress token, and you pretty much want to make sure you take this on builds that already want to stress. And the fact of the matter is, a build that stresses effectively doesn't really need much more upside on top of that. So from that point of view, I think Seventh Sister has to be relatively cheap to justify her buying cost, but she does give you a force token, so that might be a little bit awkward points-wise. So yeah, look, I think there are plenty of games where this is just going to be pretty terrible. However, I will say, yes, it does give the option of giving track tokens, and that gives you a very high ceiling. There'll always be those rare situations where you might be able to put your opponent on a rock and prevent them from shooting, which is always good. It's just not going to happen very frequently. And last but not least, the only gunner card we have to talk about today is Fifth Brother. Has a recursive force charge, again goes on any Imperial ship that has the gunner slot obviously. While you perform an attack, you may spend 1 force to change one of your eyeball results to a crit result, which just seems really, really effective. Obviously, it's not as powerful as a gunner that could give you multiple attacks, but I'm willing to guess he's going to be significantly cheaper. Also, the cool thing is he powers out his own effect. It's not like, say, the calculation from first edition where you have to spend a focus token. He only has to spend a force token, and he's giving you a force token anyway, which is really, really good. And in a pinch, you also have the flexibility of being able to use that on defense. But if you do use it on offense, you get to have those criticals, which is really, really good. And also, it doesn't specify primary, so perhaps this guy can work alongside ordnance as well, depending on the kind of carriers he might get. I think just like Seventh Sister, this is going to have to be relatively cheap in order to justify its cost. I don't think it's as effective as other gunners or crew have seen, but it's a cool effect nonetheless, and if there's anything that cares about criticals, this could be one of those things that really gets that list there. And that is it for the unique Imperial characters. Hopefully you understand what I mean, guys, when I say the characters in a faction really tell you the kind of archetypes the faction's trying to go for. These really, really powerful across-the-board support roles to go alongside TIE Fighters and Aces was fairly prevalent in first edition, but now it seems to be very much pushed in second edition. It seems to be a design direction FFG really want to take the Empire in. And definitely a strong archetype to look out for in the future. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. In a couple of days' time, I'll get the Scum unique character video out. Like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Reddit, and I will catch you guys later.